Hello, my name is Emilie, and welcome to this year's version of Business Battlefield Leaders Live, which is an interview series where we talk with the leaders of our partners about this year's overarching theme, responsible leadership, and their take on how to deal with it. Today I'm going to talk with Rikke Lykke, the CEO of DEAS Group. So Rikke, you have recently been hired as the CEO for DEAS Group, and they have just undergone some strategic changes from being a property management and now into a full service property house. How is it to be the leader of a company that has gone through this change?
Well, the change hasn't really happened yet. When we went from a more predominant property management house to a more, we actually now call it end-to-end service house, is when we acquired Aberdeen Standard Investment in the Nordics, thereby adding on services within fund management and investment management in Norway, Sweden and Finland. That we did by June, so we're actually in the midst of the transformation. And I have taken on this position as Group CEO in order to actually take this transformation into action. One thing is and I think we all know, we can write great papers, but actually take action on things and make the change happen, not only on paper, but within people and within the organization. That is not my job. So I spent the last few months analyzing the company and trying to figure out where we create value, where we make a difference, and where we maybe should reevaluate our presence within which services. And that I presented to the company 10 days ago. Making a reorganization, and now it's a lot of change management, a lot of leadership, a lot of role modeling to get things into perspective for people and make sure that they see the meaning of it. One of the big challenges is that a lot of leaders are very good with words, but sometimes you need to realize who you speak to, and you need to the only way you can make the change happen is actually get people on board, and that's the difficult part.
So what is your best advice on implementing responsible and sustainable tasks in your role as a leader?
So it's about analyzing, listening, communicating, and prioritization. You have to keep listening because the words are changing, the moods are changing over time. As you go through a change management process, the mood changes, and you have to be on top of what is happening in the organization all the time. And that's why you need to listen a lot and you need to communicate a lot. But it's also to prioritize and to know how hard it might seem or how harsh it might seem is you can't make everybody happy.
And is it difficult to do that when you are new in your position as the CEO of DEAS, like leading the way?
Honestly, no. I think what's really important is, as a leader, that you're authentic, that you're yourself, and you don't try to be somebody you're not. I also had all these talks about our strengths and our weaknesses, and I've been working for a long time, so I've had leaders telling me, oh, you have a weakness here, let's work on your weakness. And I'm like, why? All of us have weaknesses. And the thing is, the more you have to work with your weaknesses and try and do better, the less you work with your strengths. And it's just not very satisfying working on something that you know you can't really change. What you can do is be honest about them and then team up with other colleagues to have them cover your weak spots. And then maybe their weak spots is your strength, and then you team up. And I've been, investing in real estate across Europe, so I know how to make spreadsheets, but I can tell you one thing, and that is, If I start the morning and I have to do a spreadsheet, being a budget or whatever it has to be, I will find 1,000 good, arguments for doing something else. I mean, unbelievably how many I'll find, because I find it incredibly boring to do. And the thing is, I've learned over time, there are people, thank God, who loves making spreadsheets.
So, have you ever made a mistake yourself as a leader?
Yes, definitely. As a human being, I don't think there's anybody making mistakes, and as I said, even our heroes are making mistakes. I think it's about how you handle those mistakes. And when we talk about leadership, for me, my mistakes have predominantly come from not listening enough, or being too impatient. That's another one that's tough. And what I've had to do every time is own up to it and say sorry, and then reboot the process. That's all you can do. But again, as human beings, we appreciate a sorry, and then you just need to make sure that you don't do it again.
What was a difficult decision you had to make as a leader, and how did you come up with what to do?
Well, as a leader, I think the most difficult decision you have to make is when you have to decide to say goodbye to people. And I've had situations where you, as a human being, as a good, responsible leader, you want to help the individual. But at one point you have to say, okay, that's it, because helping that individual has a negative impact on the rest of the group. Where is that point when you say, okay, now I'm not going to take the individual needs into consideration, but I'm going to take a look at the greater good and do something that's better for the greater good. That's a tough one, because it's also a moral one. And as a leader, you'll have to do that several times during your business career, in my view.
And how do you think it relates to responsible leadership?
Responsible leadership is very broad. A lot of people are talking about sustainability. For me, it's much broader than that. The second thing for me is social impact, which is, to me, much larger than sustainability. Sustainability is part of it, but it's also about CSR. It's about equality. It's about human rights, basic human rights, actually. Mm-hmm. But you will see from the investment world that impact investing is coming up. We haven't really spoken so much about it in Denmark yet, but it's coming. I worked abroad the last 9 years, and for the last 2-3 years, we've only spoken about impact investing. How to impact the world, your surroundings, the social environment.
In your career, you have traveled a lot. What struggles have you been through, like trying to navigate in your work-life balance?
Struggles. I rarely look at struggles. I look at challenges. I had fun. And as long as I'm having fun, I don't view it as work and life. For me, it's a common thing. It's the same thing.
What advice would you like to give young leaders?
Wow.
And how do you think they can implement it in their life from now?
Whoa, that's a big one. Well, there's probably a few advices, I would say. One is keep working on listening skills, communication skills, because that is really what is going to be key in the future, much more than it is today. be patient. Things doesn't come overnight. And then work on getting to know yourself. This authenticity, as I spoke about, because you are so lucky that you are in a generation where you're needed much more than mine. We were tons of people. But that also gives you the strength of, or the possibility to be strong and set your boundaries. This is where we shouldn't overstep your boundaries and be clear about them, but also keep developing, keep exploring yourself and your own needs, because those change over time. So I would say, yeah, get to know yourself, be aware of your own authenticity, your own boundaries, be patient, and you can never stop developing your listening and communication skills.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for all your great advice. I'm sure there is a lot of aspiring leaders out there who can really take this into account and implement it to their own life.
Absolutely welcome. I hope that my advice is useful to you, and take them as they are, and then take what you can use and throw the rest out. That's how life goes.